All right, so let's make some really good looking graphs in R. Okay, this is the fun part where you can actually do a lot of visualization. A lot of the data analysis that we do can be explained, and initial steps are just to see and explore the data that we have. Okay, so plotting in R is actually extremely easy, but it can get pretty complex. But it's all about how involved you want to be. So the lecture today is basically on the basic R functions that are available to get graphs up and running very quickly. Later on, we'll be also covering ggplot and different types of packages that give you much more interactive and better looking graphs. But in this case, these are much quicker and much faster, and they get the job done very nicely. So there are a few things that you should know about, and that's what we're going to cover in this part. So first of all, packages. There are lots of different packages. We're going to use the basic one for today again, and for ggplot and dplyr packages, we'll work on in the later modules. So there are a couple of more interactive and again, you get more involved in these things. So first thing you need to do is pick what kind of graphical output device, right? So when you initially just tell it to plot, it'll of course going to plot it to the screen. So this is your default window. In RStudio, it's that square box, but you can actually have it open a brand new full screen window in your on your computer, and you can use that by using either Windows or the quartz command, depending on what operating system you're using. And then when you type in the plot commands, it will be printed out to that. The other thing you can do is you can open other devices like a PDF file. So you can actually tell it, instead of plotting this to the screen, plot it to a PDF file. Okay, and then it will send the commands to the PDF file. But it's important to note that you need to close that file or close that device so that it creates the file at the end. Okay. So when it does this, basically it's not going to print the plot on the screen. It will be all being sent into the file itself. Okay. So to open a new window, again, you can use the Windows or quartz command. In the RStudio, there's a zoom button that you can click on. Then there's also, if you want to know what device it's writing to currently, you can just use the device current, and also if you wanted to start a new PDF document, you use the PDF command. If you do this, by default, it uses a name called rplots, but you can here put the name of the PDF file as well, like this. And it will create, and it will save that plot in that PDF file. Just to get a list of all the devices that are open, and then if you want to change the device that you want to write to, and then finally, you need to close the device. So the reason why I'm showing you these different commands is this happens when you created or started a PDF device and you forgot to close it, and you keep printing your plots and you keep doing everything and nothing is happening. So these are the different commands that are going to help you figure out what you did or what you missed. So one of the things that people always forget to do is close the device. Actually, when you try to open the PDF, it will look like it's corrupted, or it'll say that it's not complete because you haven't closed the device. So always remember, if you're having difficulty, if you're stuck and it's not creating any plots, try using this device off command to make sure that all the output devices are finished, and then you can start creating plots again. So to generate plots, the output of the function really depends on the object that is passed to it. So again, R is an object-oriented programming language. So in this case, this data set, so the R comes with a lot of basic data sets, and LDETs is a time series data set. You can type in class and then put LDETs and see that. And it's basically the number of deaths in the UK due to lung disease. Okay, so it's a pretty morbid data set. However, you can see the trends, and obviously during the winter is when you have more of these deaths. So what other arguments can you provide, right? So the main thing here is that just by using this one line, plot, give it the object, it does it. That's it. And based on what kind of object it is, it will pick its appropriate way of displaying it. So now what other arguments can you add to this? One is that we can tell it that don't put any annotations yet. I'm going to put them one by one. You can tell it to describe the different types of border that you want around the plot. You can scale the size of the font that's there, the label on the axes, or the labels that are there in the title, to change those specifically. And then of course the main title as well, and the coloring, if you want to specify which color do you want the plots to be. Also you can change the font. Now there's a whole lot more arguments, but I'm giving you the ones that I've found useful, and it took me a while to kind of try all these different things to see which one were useful, and so I'm only presenting to you some of them. You can learn more about these different commands. Just type $par in your command line, and you'll get a whole documentation of all the arguments and features that you need, that you can use for the plotting. Right, and also the type of font that you can have. Some other arguments is you can decide on the number of tick marks on the axis, the orientation. This comes in handy when your labels are too long to sit side by side and you actually want them to be vertical. So let's say you have your x-axis like this and you have your names like this, but your tick marks are like this. You might want to display them so that they're like this, right? So things like this, the orientations can be very helpful for that. You can change the type of line, dash to a not, how thick the lines are. This is helpful. You can actually put multiple plots on the same page. So we'll see that in a bit, but this is really helpful for having multiple plots. And then you can also have different types of points. You could have circles, crosses, stars, and so on. And also you can have grid lines in your graph, okay? And then you can also have tick marks on your x and y axis. So again, plotting multiple plots in the same, use the mfrow function. You can get more arguments about this using the par I told you about, the $par. So the way it works is you basically tell it the number of rows or the number of columns you want. And every time you plot, it will basically create a new plot. And instead of creating a new window, it's just going to fill in another space that's available. So the example here is, let's say I want to have these 3 or 4 different types of plots of lung deaths in one image. I would initially write this command here. I would say start my plotting environment with the rows 2, 2. That means 2 plots in the 2 rows. So it's 4 plots. And then every time I use the plot function, I would get a different plot in a different quadrant of the plot. So you would have one page with 4 plots, 1 in each quadrant. Okay, now once you have this plot, you can add additional things to it, right? So you can add axis. So for example, you haven't plotted the y-axis for some reason because you want to make it more, you want to have more control over what's displayed. You can add specific titles to you can add legends, tell it where to be located in the plot. You can add additional text. So once you have a plot and you have points, you can actually label them by adding text to the actual graph. Okay, that comes in very handy as well. You can add additional points. So a lot of times, if I have points of different color that I want to add, then I will, or different shapes, then I will plot with one set of points first, and then I'll add additional points with a different color later. I can add additional lines as well, and also different types of polygon structure. So these I've used quite a bit to add things to it, but the reason why you need this is because every time you use the plot command, it starts a brand new plot figure. The AB line allows you to draw straight lines, either diagonal, horizontal. You can give it an equation, or you can go vertical or horizontal. All right, so that I messed up at the end.